A 15-year-old girl developed a relationship with her brother-in-law. When her sister found out, she made a video and showed it to everyone. "What's the matter, Gia? Why are you crying?" When Shaza saw her sister, she got worried. At that time of the afternoon, Gia was standing alone at her door. She immediately took her inside and gave her a glass of water and started asking, "Tell me, Gia, why are you shedding tears like this? What's the matter? Everything is fine at home, right? Who are you with? Where is your mother?" Shaza was feeling very worried about her sister. Her house was far from her mother. Her sister was only 15 years old. If she was standing alone at her door, then it must have been a big deal. Gia kept sobbing for a long time, resting her head on her sister's shoulder, and then she said, "Baji, I won't go back now. I will stay with you. Mom and Dad don't love me at all." She was crying like a child. Shaza suddenly felt both love and anger for her. Shaza started saying, "Why are you talking nonsense? Tell me straight what's the matter." Gia started saying, "Mother has scolded me a lot. I went to my friend's house yesterday and got back a little late. Mother has told me a lot of things, and since this morning, she has been saying the same thing, that there is no need to go to any friend's house. Mother wants to keep me confined at home while my brother is out late at night. She doesn't say anything to him. Mother only loves her sons." Gia looked at her sister while asking, "Baji, will you keep me in your house, or will you not tell me things?" Shaza couldn't help but love her younger sister. Shaza was the eldest. After her, there were 3 brothers. Then the youngest, Gia, who was spoiled and spoiled the most, immediately put her hand on her sister's head and said, "Brother, why would I chase you away from my house? Yes, but if Amma comes to pick you up or Amma calls, I will have to send you." Gia quickly shook her head in denial and said, "I will stay with you in Jeju. There is nothing else in the house except Amma's words. Look at how many things there are here. I also like the garden of your house. Stay at your house for a few days, Baji. Amma will also get better, and my mood will also change." She put her hand on Shaza's neck and started pleading. Shaza smiled and said, "This is your house. Just let me tell Amma that you have come here. Otherwise, she will be worried. Tell me how you are." Gia made a bad face and said that I came with Ramiz and he left me. Hearing this, Shaza's ears pricked up. "He is your friend's brother. You came with him." Shaza couldn't believe that her sister would walk to her house with her friend's brother. "Yes, Baji, I was late at his house yesterday too, so he came to drop me off at home. But for God's sake, Amma is fed up with it. All the time, Amma kept saying that, 'Why did you return home on a motorcycle behind a stranger? What will the world say?' I don't understand why Amma is so worried about the people of the world. I came back home with Ramiz because I had ego. Ramiz is not as bad as everyone thinks he is, and the people of the world love to make things up. What should I do? Today, when I left the house in anger, I saw her. I just asked her for a lift and then I came here." Gia had answered her sister with her eyes innocently, while Shiza had held her head. She knew that her sister was still young and probably didn't even know the difference between right and wrong. But Ramiz was a very good, very young man. What did she need to bring Gia here on a motorcycle? Shaza understood that it would make her mother angry, but she didn't want to make her angry by saying anything to Gia at that time. She called her mother and told her that Gia was with her and she would spend a few days here. Shaza's mother angrily asked how she reached there. With whom did she come here? "I was looking for her in the neighborhood." Shaza did not take Ramiz's name, but said that she came by rickshaw. Hearing this, her mother said, "Shaza, look at your house. You have a lot of work to do anyway. There is no need to keep Gia there. Send her back. I'm coming to pick her up myself. Her mind is not right these days. She's turning everything upside down. And then I don't think it's good that she's staying at your house. What's her business in her sister's house?" Mother strictly forbade her from keeping Gia. But Shaza insisted. She knew that if she asked Gia to go back, she would get very angry, and it was not in her power to make her sister angry. She quickly convinced Mother to leave Gia alone for 10, 15 days. "Then I will bring her back to you and hand her over to you. Anyway, Mother, you know my nature, don't you? Gia's arrival will hurt me too. You know that in such a situation, my heart gets worried in solitude. If Gia is there, I will be happy too. During pregnancy, every moment feels very heavy. I am alone at home and alone. I just get worried. Time doesn't even pass. Hearing Shaza's words, her mother fell silent. She really needed someone to be with her, but she didn't trust Gia at all. She was very indifferent and didn't understand. She didn't have any idea of the highs and lows of the world. However, she was very good at doing what she wanted. She said, "Okay, Shaza, you can keep Gia, but if she bothers you even a little, call me immediately and I will take her myself. Especially Bilal shouldn't have any problems. You must take his permission so that he doesn't mind Gia staying at your house." Hearing Amma's words, Shaza said, "Amma, Bilal is not like that. He will be happy with Gia's arrival." Then both mother and daughter continued talking happily for a while Gia kept jumping around the house. Shaza was married to a very rich man. She was very beautiful to look at and educated. That's why she came from a very high family. After the marriage, Shaza's mother-in-law and father-in-law had given her a separate bungalow, and she was living alone with her husband in this big bungalow from the beginning. Her father-in-law had gone to America with her and Shaza. There was no one to interfere in her life. The servants would come in the morning and do the housework and leave. After that, Shaza was alone all the time. At first, she did not feel lonely that much, but when she became pregnant, she started feeling very lonely. Sometimes her health would deteriorate, so she would lie in bed all day. In such a situation, Jaya's ego seemed like a fresh breeze to her. The two sisters were busy with each other all day, and Shaza's health completely improved. When Bilal returned from the office around 7 in the evening, he was surprised by the extraordinary splendor in the house. Then as soon as his eyes fell on Gia, he was shocked. Unaware of her condition, she was lying cross-legged on the sofa with a dupatta on her head. The 55-inch LED screen in front of her was playing at full volume. She had a can of cold drink in one hand and a packet of chips in the other. She was lying face down. She was completely lost in a movie and did not even realize that Bilal had entered the house. Shaza had gone to the washroom, otherwise she would have woken Gia up. Bilal stood there for a long time, gazing at Gia's beautiful appearance. At the age of 15, she had become very beautiful. She was an untouched bud stepping on the threshold of youth, seeing which Bilal's heart beat faster. By then, Shaza reached there and seeing Bilal standing, she immediately greeted him. Gia also jumped at her sister's voice, and as soon as she saw Bilal, she sat up straight. Bilal also changed the angle of his gaze very quickly. Shaza took the laptop bag held by Bilal and told him that Gia had come for a few days and that she would stay here now. Bilal had no objection to this. He also wanted someone to be with his wife in such a situation, so he did not object. But in a short time, Gia was on top of him. She started saying, "Hey, this is the first time I have come to your house after so long. Won't you take me to eat ice cream?" Bilal had a habit of relaxing after work, but he could not refuse the way Gia was asking him. He looked at Shaza and said, "Let's eat ice cream and come back," but Shaza refused. Her back was hurting. She was in her 7th month. She did not have the courage to leave the house. Hearing her sister's refusal, Gia fell silent, but then Shaza herself said, "Take Jaya and go. She keeps coming back." Bilal. He had no intention of going without his wife, but after hearing Shaza's words, Gia started shouting slogans in joy, and then got up to leave quickly. It became difficult for Bilal to refuse, so he also went out with Gia. Shaza had laid down peacefully on the bed. She had been following Gia around the house all day, which is why she was very tired today. She kept tossing and turning on the bed for a long time. She had thought that she would keep Gia in her house for 10–15 days and then send her back, but she had no idea what storm she had invited into her life. Gia was no longer the child she had left behind when she left. In the past year, Gia had completely changed from head to toe, and Shaza had no idea about this at all. She considered Gia to be her younger sister and an innocent child. An hour passed, but Bilal and Gia did not return, even though the ice cream parlor was not far from their house. Then she fell asleep, and when she opened her eyes, it was 2 in the morning and Bilal was still not in the room. Seeing that she was worried about where her husband was, Bilal had the habit of sleeping early at night. He used to get up early in the morning and go to the office. He had always given great importance to business, and that was the reason why Bilal's business was touching the heights of prosperity. When she came out of the room while looking for Bilal, she started hearing laughter from the lounge. She was surprised that both Gia and Bilal were sitting in the lounge all night. When she went to the lounge, they were both completely lost in some movie, and were enjoying themselves together. This was the first time that Shiza had seen this form of her husband. Otherwise, Bilal was a very serious person. Shaza also lived like this with him. She had never seen Bilal laugh so loudly. As soon as Bilal saw Shaza, I started asking if you were awake. When we returned, you were sound asleep. We made a plan for the movie. Come and sit down too. Shaza sat next to her husband and said, Yes, I was very sleepy, but why are you guys still awake? Don't worry in the morning. Before Bilal could answer, Jia said, Baji, this is not the meaning of waking up late at night. Bilal Bhai, don't worry. Bilal Bhai will wake up on time in the morning. Why Bilal Bhai? When Jia looked at Bilal, he nodded his head in agreement, and Shaza was surprised at how could a person who sleeps on time be awake for so long today. But she could not say anything. After some time, the movie ended, and they both returned to their room. They had given Jia a room next door, but after a while, Jia started knocking on the door of the room. Shaza opened the door and Jia said, I am scared. Our house is as big as it is. You have given me a room. I will not even sleep out of fear. I will sleep in your room. Hearing this, Shaza felt strange. She asked Jia how she could sleep in her room in the presence of her husband. She could have given permission, but after thinking for a while, she said, Come on, I'll go to your room and sleep. But in the meantime, Bilal's eyes opened. He saw Jia and heard the whole thing. He said, I'll sleep on the sofa. You two sleep here on the bed. Shaza said, It's already late at night. It will be difficult for the morning. You two sleep peacefully. We both went to the next room. But Bilal took his pillow and went to the sofa and said, You two sleep peacefully. I don't have any problems. Shaza forced Jia to sleep on her bed in her room. When she opened her eyes in the morning, the clock was striking 11. She didn't know how she had gotten up so late. Otherwise, she used to get up at 9 and send Bilal to the office herself. She got up and looked around. Neither Jia nor Bilal were in the room. She immediately left the room. Jia was sitting in the lounge watching TV. Shaza asked about Bilal and said, Bilal, brother, you went to the office. You were sleeping tired. I gave him breakfast. I gave them all their belongings, and I knew I gave them to them and sent them away. Jia had said this very calmly, but Shaza felt very bad. This was the first time in so many months of marriage that when she had not gone to the door to leave Bilal, she had not put a barrier of her prayers on Bilal. She said angrily, Jia, Bilal did not wake him up. You would have woken him up. Jia touched her ears and said, If I had done that, Bilal would have been angry. You were in a very deep sleep. That's why I didn't tease you. I don't know why Shaza's heart was a little cold. She didn't like what her sister said. Bilal's every task was Shaza's responsibility, and she didn't want to leave Bilal's work in the hands of anyone else. She picked up the phone and called Bilal, but his phone was switched off. Of course, he was in a meeting. Then she kept trying to call Bilal all day, but his phone was off. In the evening, when he returned, Shiza complained, Why didn't you wake me up? Bilal smiled and passed it to his wife. He made her sit down and said, What's the need to worry about this? Jia had made me breakfast, and she had also taken out my clothes, etc. That's why there was no problem. Shaza rested her head on Bilal's shoulder and said, I am your wife. I am happy to do your work. Before she could say anything else, Jia went to her room without hesitation. Seeing her sister barging into the room like this, Shaza immediately backed away. She was angry that Jia had not knocked on the door. She was young, but not so young that she did not know manners. Jia saw Bilal and said, Today we will go to the sea at night. I'm very fond of seeing the sea in the dark of the night. Mom, Dad will not take me. You will take me. Shaza wanted to stop him, but Bilal supported him. Then when it was his turn to go, Bilal himself stopped Shaza, saying, In such a situation, there is no need to go to the open sea at night. You should relax. I will be there in a little while. I will take Jia around. She also wanted to go with me, but after hearing her husband's words, she became silent, and then it started happening again. Shehza would lock herself in her room due to her health, and both of them would go out somewhere. Every day, Jia would ask to go somewhere. Within 10 days, Shaza became completely worried. The time that Bilal used to spend with Shaza after returning from the office would now be seen by Jia. A lot of distance had come between the two husband and wife in a few days, and Shaza could no longer bear this. Jia would dress up, apply her makeup, get ready and go out with her husband in the car, while she was suffering from back pain. With each passing day, the pain in her back was increasing. The 7th month had come to an end. On the 12th day, Shaza's mother came to pick up Gia, but Gia refused to go back and said, "Uncle is not feeling well. I will stay here until the delivery, Shahzad." She didn't want to stop Gia anymore, so she said, "Go away. I've been living without you before." Hearing this, Gia made a bad face and then gave Bilal the phone. Shahza kept stopping her, but she persuaded Bilal to tell her that she didn't want to go home yet. Bilal spoke to his mother-in-law and told Gia to stop the delivery. Shahza's mother could not walk much in front of her son-in-law, and she became silent. Gia happily started swinging on Shahza's shoulder and then got busy with her mobile phone. Shahza looked at her mother, and her mother understood from the expressions on her face what was going on in Shahza's heart and mind. She said, "Daughter, that's why I didn't want him to stay at your house even for a day. Neither his friends are good nor his own deeds. I'm afraid that there might be some trouble, so you should send him back home yourself before any trouble arises." Shahza nodded at her mother's words, but despite her best efforts in the coming days, she could not find any excuse to send Gia back home. On the other hand, Gia and Bilal's closeness was growing. Shahza would take medicine and fall asleep early at night, but the two of them would sit in the lounge until midnight watching movies. And then one night, when Shahza opened her eyes and left the room, she was also in the lounge. It was silent. Shahza did not understand where the two of them would be. She searched for them. Shahza went to Gia's room, and there was a sound of conversation from inside. Shahza opened the door slightly and looked inside. She was shocked to see her sister Gia wearing her sari and wearing full makeup, sitting right next to Bilal. Shahza understood the closeness of the two very well. Tears started to well up in her eyes. Shahza opened the mobile phone she held in her hand and made a video of the two of them. They were so engrossed in each other that they could not even realize Shahza's presence. Shahza returned to her room, her heart broken. Both of them were her own people, one her husband and the other her sister. It was true that she had woken up her sister in her house, but that did not mean at all that her husband would get a certificate of infidelity. The next day, Shahza invited her parents to her house. Gia was surprised at what was the need for this invitation, but Shahza invited everyone to dinner. When Shahza's parents and brother arrived, Shahza put the video she had recorded the night on the LED. After watching the video, the ground disappeared from under Gia's feet while her parents were furious. Shahza started crying and said that I woke her up in my house thinking she was my sister and she cheated on my husband. If I had not made this video, she would never have accepted this. That is why I have made this video so that she cannot hide from what she did. Now you guys take her with you, and after today, do not let her even set foot in my house. I want to save my relationship with Bilal. That is why I have shown her truth to people in Bilal's absence. Shahza's father got angry and started scolding Gia. Her mother was also ashamed of her daughter's behavior. Shahza's condition was getting worse. Shahza's mother took care of her and said, "Don't worry, after today, Gia will never set foot in your house again." Gia's father had forcibly taken her away. Bilal had a meeting and he was going to be late. Shahza knew this, so she had thrown Gia out of her house before he arrived. When Bilal returned around 11 p.m. and asked about Gia, Shahza showed him the video on her mobile phone and told him that she had sent Gia back. After watching the video, Bilal bowed his head in shame, in which he was holding Gia and praising her beauty and kissing her hands. Bilal said, "Forgive me, I was lost. She herself used to find excuses to come near me. Whenever I would take her out, she would come to me and hold my hand. She had trapped me in her trap, and I was trapped in her trap by the devil's temptation." Bilal was apologizing with shame. Shahza said, "I am ready to forgive you because it is my mistake that I have lost my... You woke up your young sister in your house, but you should have also accepted our relationship. You are getting this forgiveness because your child is coming into this world soon. But if something like this happens next time, I will leave your life forever." Bilal sat at her feet and started feeling ashamed of his mistakes, and Shahza forgave him, just like she had forgiven Gia. However, somewhere in her heart, there must have been a regret that she had allowed her young sister to live in her house. Sometimes a person makes such mistakes that she has to bear the burden of her ignorance for the rest of her life. And Shahza also had to live with this burden all her life because her husband, as soon as he got the chance, started making love to her sister.